do you have to hustle to be successful? There's been a lot of conversation in recent kind of times around whether or not we put hustle on a pedestal. And to some extent, I agree that ideally, in a world where everything was all rainbows and sunshines and we didn't live in a capitalist world driven by who can do the most for the least amount of money, of course it would be great to not have to hustle as hard. But is that the reality? Especially when you're just starting out, especially in a competitive, creative environment. That's what we're going to be diving into in today's episode. Hello friend, I'm Alex Rule and this is the Alex Makes VR podcast. Let's dive in, shall we? Hustle is an interesting word. I feel like it went from being quite a cool word, it's cool to be hustling non-stop, it's cool to be on the grind, it's cool to be busy. And then in the last couple of years, and actually especially since COVID, we've all gotten to slow down a little. We've all gotten to see what life would be like if we didn't have to be on the perpetual treadmill of work. I think when we all envision what our dream life would be, none of us would be working 18 hours a day. But is there a reason why most successful people have at some point been obsessive and usually gone above and beyond? Is there a reason why in Silicon Valley there's a very stereotypical image of these kind of people grouped together in a garage or a living room just constantly working 24/7 to bring something to fruition? Is there something in that? It's a topic that I'm really kind of curious about, and it's one why I wanted to kind of just, I guess, air my thoughts on the subject out, because I am absolutely in a place in life right now where I would love to not hustle as hard. Like, I would love to not feel as stretched thinly, I guess. I would love to have the option of being able to take my foot off the gas pedal a little bit. But I think the other part of me, the person that studies entrepreneur culture, the person that pays close attention to what successful people are doing, as someone who can pattern spot and see a correlation between the hours that I put into things and the amount of projects that I take on versus like the reward that I get from that, it can be sometimes very, very, very difficult to turn that hustle switch off. And of course, there's the argument that, well, there's always more to do. There's actually one of my favorite quotes is in the 4-Hour Work Week, which is one of my favorite business books by Tim Ferriss. And in it, he talks about busyness is a form of laziness. So this idea of hustle, I think, gets equated to quite often as this idea of just like constantly being busy, like be grinding, like be working 18-hour days, like hustle, hustle, hustle. But in recent years, I've started to think about hustle as more being smart and saying yes to opportunities that are going to propel me in the right direction, if that makes sense. I don't see hustle as it being cool to wake up at 6 and work until midnight. Like that doesn't feel right to me. That's not the point of hustle. Right now, as I record this, it's close to 10 p.m. and I have set a rule for myself since kind of COVID and since slowly getting back to working on projects after everything grinding to a halt during those first couple of months of the pandemic. I set a rule for myself that I didn't want to work past 8 p.m. And then new opportunities came up that were too good to turn down. So then I was like, I'm not going to work past 9 p.m. And then in this last week, I've had like several things jump on my plate. And now I'm like, oh, okay, it's creeping up to 10. Like, but I still want to do this. I still want to sit here and record this podcast. I still want to have this conversation with you. And actually, I don't even feel like this is a chore. Like, I love talking about this stuff. This is the kind of stuff that excites me. So what is that? Like, that's more of an example of hustle, in my opinion. That is acknowledging that this week is a bit full on because I've got several projects on the go. And if I was adhering to my own advice of like, you know, taking a bit of a step back, being a bit more kind to myself, respecting like my time a little bit more and making sure I didn't have as much on my plates, yes, I would not be doing this. Yes, I would take a step back. Yes, I would enjoy a bit of decompression time and I would say no to some opportunities. But the hustler in me, like the part of me that knows that actually there is something to that initial inertia, that initial push, that initial grind to get you off the ground, like that initial kind of that running down the runway in order to get that lift that's going to like propel you up into the sky. That's a really, really important phase when you work in the creative industries. And so, yes, there is absolutely a time and a place to say no to things. And there's absolutely working smart, not working necessarily as hard. But sometimes it will come down to, you know, you've got a load of opportunities. They're all equally as good for you, your career, your life, your future prospects. And you just got to get it done. And in that scenario, the person that hustles the hardest will probably reap the rewards. And maybe I'm going to get some backlash for saying that. Maybe it's not the thing that people want to hear. Maybe people want to hear that they can achieve crazy levels of success and only work an 8-hour day. And maybe you can. Maybe you are the 1% that is so gifted and so extremely focused on one particular thing and luck falls in your favor and bam, like you are the 1% that makes that happen. And if that's you, my goodness, I'm so jealous, but I'm so happy for you. And maybe you're listening and actually your dream life is a lot more humble, or maybe your ambitions at the moment at this stage in life aren't as big. But if you are someone who is sitting there wanting the earth, if you want to be that 1%, if you want to be living that 1% life, if you want to be able to create opportunities for yourself that are, you know, those kind of big, exciting, world-changing, earth-shattering, super proud, kind of show up to your high school reunion, being the boss, like, you know, being the celebrity of the group. And I don't mean celebrity, like just a celebrity. I mean, like, you know, celebrity of the person that, of the people that went to high school because you did so well. You know what I'm getting at. If you want that, then I hate to tell you, but especially when you're in that early stage of your career, especially when you are in that kind of that phase where you're just getting off the ground, where you're just networking, where you're just getting your feet wet with people and people that can kind of catalyst and help you with your career, opportunities are going to come in and you're going to have to grind. That's just the truth. And it ebbs and flows. Like I say, right now, I didn't expect that to happen this year, but I am at the moment going through a little bit, I'd say it was like a mini grind phase, because I'm super excited by what's happening with the podcast. And I could have decided not to do it daily, but I really enjoy doing it daily. And I'm really enjoying the interaction that I'm getting from you guys. And I feel satisfied and fulfilled. And like, this is something that I'm really proud of and something that I really just get excited about, like thinking about it. I get excited about it. There's like, not even on days where I don't necessarily feel like in the mood to do any kind of work, I still like get in the rhythm of doing these podcasts because I just really love it. But then I've also got like 3 other projects, all equally exciting, all equally as good for my career. Like, you know, nothing that really stands out as like, oh, I'm just doing this for XYZ. Like, they're all like projects that I'm actually really invested in, like, and some of them are obviously much more well paid than others. Some of them are much more high profile than others, but they are all equally exciting to me. And so I have the choice. I can either risk losing out on some of these opportunities and hoping that they come around again, or accepting that, you know, the next week or two, maybe it's going to be a bit more of a grind, but then I'm going to have a lull again, and I'm going to be so proud of myself. I'm going to be so excited that I stuck with it, that I got through. And then it's up to me, right? Then it's up to me to decide to work smart. And what can I delegate? What am I doing? And this is another thing that I really enjoyed in the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, is like talking about some of the stuff that you can kind of cut out, that you are wasting time on. So he talks about this idea of like time batching. So when you're hustling, the whole idea is that you're like making the most of your time, right? But you could be wasting time on things like, I don't know, like an example might be, I get an email today that tells me I need to pay my accountants. So I've got a choice. I can stop what I'm doing, switch tasks, pay that accountant's bill, and then, you know, go through that. And that might take only like 10 minutes or something, but it'll still take 10 minutes. And then I have to switch back to my task that I was doing, which was most likely a quite intensive thought, deep thinking kind of mode for like script writing or something like that. And then I have to get back into that zone, which for me takes a little while, because it's not like a natural state. It's not like I like spring out of bed and I'm like, okay, I'm in the perfect mood to write a script now. So Tim Ferriss talks about that idea of like the cost of task switching, and that in itself like will stretch my day out longer, because it takes me, I think there's like a study that says it like takes like 20 minutes for you to get your focus back when you get distracted by something. That's why you should turn your notifications on your phone off, which I experiment with. I like leave I leave 1 or 2 of my apps notifications on, just because I have clients and family and close friends that get me on those channels, but I try and turn everything else off. I think a lot of you know this already about me, but I delete Instagram after I post, because oh boy, I could go down a whole rabbit hole spending hours on that thing. And if it's on my phone, when I boil that kettle to get a cup of tea, I will just mindlessly just like open the app, autopilot, start scrolling, not even really be conscious of what I'm doing. So I've started to not only kind of recognize when when it is time for me to like buckle down and like do a bit more work than I probably should be taking on to be mentally healthy. But also being a bit smarter about like making the most of that time. So hustle. I think it gets a bad rap. The other parts of this puzzle is, and I've kind of touched on this, is basically that idea of, like I've said, like hustle shouldn't feel hard necessarily, because you should, that if you're taking on tasks that you actually really enjoy and are things that are going to benefit your career and are things that are super important and integral to the process that you are in building your company or whatever, actually hustle can a lot of the time feel like a lot of fun. And yeah, obviously there's like downsides of it, but the overriding feeling should be like, this is good. As soon as anything starts to like tip too far in favor of being negative on your mental health or physical health, that's when it's time to call it quits. That's when it's no good. Like, that's not cool. And of course, like the thing with taking on too much is, and especially if it's not like, if it doesn't fit right with your purpose, or if you try and hustle too hard for too long, then absolutely you can burn out, and that's just a recipe for disaster. So I feel like I'm all over the place with what I'm talking about here, but I just thought it was an interesting topic to just kind of explore, to just kind of air my thoughts about it. And I'd be so curious to hear your thoughts about it, because I feel like it is a very divisive topic. You're either very for it or very against it. You're either very on the hustle bandwagon and very like, you know, you just work, and you understand the benefits of that and you understand why you have to do that, or you're not. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like so much of everything that has happened to me in my career has been, of course, an element of luck and an element of understanding a little bit probably earlier on about like marketing and the importance of like things, and having a basic understanding of like business structure and strategy and that kind of thing, like, which absolutely helped me navigate many situations. And don't get me wrong, I've been in several situations where I've burnt out or taken on too much or hustled a little bit too hard and it's not paid off, and etc. etc. Don't get me wrong, I have been in those positions. But what really annoys me is when people in my life who want to live a similar life to me bitch and moan about the fact that they don't have that opportunity, or they see me and go, oh, you know, yeah, you are just so lucky. And absolutely there is an element of luck, I'm not going to deny that. But what they fail to recognize is, whilst they were going and getting pissed on the weekend, like having a 4-day weekend, getting pissed, going out every night, playing games, watching films, whatever it might be, whatever pastime it might be, spending loads of time with their partner, whatever it was, I was probably working. I was probably working on like a second job in the evening after finishing a first job earlier in the day. I was probably on a train to London running on like 5 hours sleep because I'd like just finished another project. I was probably putting a train ticket on a credit card so that I could go to that networking event, so that I could like put myself in the right circles to be even in with a chance of getting an opportunity that would put me onto the path that I wanted for my life. So yes, of course there is luck, and of course there is an element of talent and skill and natural ability, like to some extent. Like some things, like you listening right now, you're probably like a way better photographer than I am, or you're maybe a way better illustrator or designer, or even director, like even things that I would consider myself specialist in. But one of the things that I consider myself to be quite uniquely talented in is pattern spotting and understanding marketing and business. It's just something that I've just always been brought up around. It's something that I've like just had a natural knack for understanding. I think probably because it's just like I'm obsessed with people. I just love people. I just love communicating. I love understanding why we communicate. I love understanding behavior. I love understanding relationship dynamics. Fascinated by psychoanalysis and just deep understanding and empathy and wanting to kind of know what's going on in someone's head. So of course there's like an element of that feeds into the fact that of course I'm gonna like hustle a bit harder and reap rewards in the realm of like business and marketing, because I've been naturally blessed like to have some of that. But whatever you're uniquely talented in, whatever you're uniquely blessed at being just gifted at, or even if you've like worked so hard to be talented in your craft, to an extent, that will only take you so far, and the rest is consistency and hustle. And I feel like hustle I'm now starting to think of as sprints, and consistency as like the marathon. So every single day you need to be doing something that builds towards the life you want for yourself. You need to be building. You need to be laying down those tracks. You need to be taking one step every single day in the right direction. That's why it's so important to think about what that life is that you do want for yourself, or what is the big project that you want to work on, or what is the creative endeavor that you want to pursue next. And make sure that you know that, have that crystal clear in your head, so that every day when you assess opportunities, you can say, yes, this will be taking one step in that right direction towards that goal. So that's the consistency part. But then the other part is acknowledging that when those opportunities show up, oh boy, you got to grab them and you've got to run with them. Don't walk, run. Run until your lungs hurt. Run until you feel like your legs are going to give out from underneath you. You got to run. Run as fast as you can for as long as you can until that opportunity is solidified, and then you can breathe. and then you can slow down, and then you will reap the benefits of that. I promise you. So I know that it's not particularly cool to promote hustle culture anymore. I know that especially during COVID, there's been like a massive movement towards like productivity is not cool. Like, why do we push productivity? And I'm like, don't get me wrong. I wish that we lived in a world where that wasn't the case. I wish that we lived in a world where we didn't have to be as on it to like see the kind of financial and critical success that we all want in life. I wish that wasn't the case. But the truth is, the current world that we're living in, that is the truth. The truth is that you do have to show up. You do have to sometimes like work harder than everyone else. You do have to sometimes go that extra mile if you want to live that kind of extra life, you know? So anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Oh, super, super interesting topic. I'm sure there'll be loads more to come in this month's episodes. For now, though, I would love to hear from you. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if there's any subjects you want me to cover this month in this season of the podcast. You can hit me up on social media, AlexMakesVR, on Instagram and Twitter. Please subscribe and follow the podcast. That would mean the world to me. And do you know what would even mean even more to me is if you shared it, if you got any value from it, I don't know, if this puts you in a right frame of mind, if it gets you fired up, if it makes you think, if you think someone else in your life would benefit from listening to this podcast, please share it. That would mean the absolute world to me. And every single day when these episodes go live, I put out a newsletter just to let you know the episode's live, but also to give you a bit of an inside scoop on some of the takeaways. Consider it like the kind of the worksheet that comes along with the podcast episode, things to kind of remind yourself of maybe, or even just to give you a heads up of what's in the episode. So if you want to subscribe to that, you can subscribe to the newsletter at alexmakesvr.com. I'm going to love you and leave you, my beautiful friends. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. If you are on the grind at the moment, keep going, hustle hard. Know that you're taking amazing steps towards building that life that you want. Do the work now so that you can benefit later. And if you're not, if you are on that kind of more chill, work-life balance life, like just enjoying your downtime, then goddamn good on you. Enjoy it, like love it, lean into it. We need those kind of times to recharge the batteries, because then the next time an opportunity does present itself, you'll be even more charged to kind of go. Okay, I'll speak to you tomorrow.